It was a Friday night, and my parents were out for a much-needed date night, leaving me in charge of the house. I never minded being home alone. I actually enjoyed the peace and quiet. I would watch whatever I wanted on TV and surf the internet without any interruption. Little did I know that this night would be anything but peaceful. The evening began as usual. I made myself a plate of pizza rolls, grabbed a soda, and settled down into the living room to binge watch my favorite TV series. It was around 9 p.m. when I first heard it. A faint tapping sound coming from the back door. I muted the TV, trying to pinpoint the source. The tapping persisted for a few seconds, then stopped. I hesitated, wondering if I should check it out. It was probably just the wind, or maybe a tree branch hitting the door. Shaking off the unease, I turned the volume back up and continued watching my show. But then, there it was again, the tapping. This time, it was louder and more persistent. My heart raced as I stood up and cautiously made my way towards the back door. The curtains were drawn, and I hesitated before pulling them back to reveal nothing. The porch was empty. I let out a sigh of relief, chiding myself for being so paranoid. As I turned to head back to the living room, I caught a glimpse of movement in the corner of my eye. I froze, fear creeping up my spine, but when I looked back, there was nothing there. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination running wild. I grabbed my phone and decided to distract myself with some music. As I walked back into the living room, I felt a sudden chill, as if the temperature had dropped several degrees. A cold gust of wind blew through the room, causing the hairs off the back of my neck to stand up. Petrified, I grabbed the blanket and wrapped myself in it, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that had taken over. I decided to call my parents and tell them what was happening. Just as I was about to dial their number, a loud crash came from upstairs, made me jump out of my skin. Tears welled up in my eyes as I debated what to do. My instincts screamed at me to leave the house, but I couldn't just abandon my home. I decided to investigate the noise, hoping it was just some fallen book or something else mundane. As I slowly climbed the stairs, each creak of the wooden steps echoed in my ears. The crash had come from my bedroom. I hesitated outside the door, then gently pushed it open. The sight that greeted me was horrifying. My entire room was in disarray. My belongings were scattered across the floor, and the mirror above my dresser was shattered. But the most chilling discovery was the message written on the wall in what looked like dried blood. It read, "You are not alone." My heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't hold back the scream that escaped my lips. I sprinted down the stairs, grabbed my keys, and bolted out the door. As I fumbled to unlock my car, I glanced back at the house one last time. There, in the window of my bedroom, was a tall, dark figure with glowing red eyes, watching me. I never went back to that house. My family moved as far away as we could, but the memories of that night still haunts me. I don't know what that thing was, but I know one thing for sure. I will never feel truly alone ever again. I had always considered my childhood home a sanctuary, a place of comfort and warmth. But after that night, I could never look at it the same way again. It all started on a stormy October evening when my parents had gone out to celebrate their anniversary, leaving me to enjoy a quiet night in. The rain tapped on the windows as I snuggled on the couch with a bowl of popcorn, ready to watch a marathon of my favorite horror movies. I was used to being home alone, and the spooky atmosphere only added to my excitement. Little did I know that my love for horror would soon take a chilling turn. As I watched the first movie, I noticed the television flicker. I dismissed it as some interference caused by the storm and continued watching. But as the night wore on, the flickering became more frequent and more erratic. Eventually, the TV shut off completely. Annoyed, I grabbed the remote and tried to turn it back on. The screen remained black. I groaned, assuming the storm had knocked out the power, but a quick glance around the room revealed that all the other lights were still working. Confused, I decided to give the TV a break and went to the kitchen to make a cup of hot chocolate. Just as I was about to take a sip of my cocoa, I heard the faint sound of static coming from the living room. I furrowed my brow, confused as to how the TV had just turned itself back on. I walked back to find the screen filled with static, emitting an eerie white glow. I turned the TV off and tried to ignore the unsettling feeling that crept up my spine, but as soon as I turned my back, the TV flickered back to life. My heart raced, and I felt a knot of dread form in the pit of my stomach. This couldn't be a simple glitch. It was as if something was purposely messing with me. I tried to shake off my fear and turn the TV off once more. But as soon as I had done so, it turned itself back on. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I realized I was no longer in control. I grabbed my phone and called for my parents, desperately hoping they would answer. As I stood there, phone pressed against my ear, the static of the screen began to shift. Slowly, an image formed, a face, twisted and grotesque, with hollow eyes, materialized on my television screen. A blood-curdling scream erupted from the speakers, causing me to drop my phone in terror. I couldn't take it anymore. I ran to the front door, ready to flee the house, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if an invisible force was holding it shut. Panicking, I tried the windows, but they too were sealed tight. I was trapped. In the living room, the television continued to emit a cacophony of screams and garbled voices. I couldn't escape the horrifying sound, no matter where I tried to hide. It was as if the sinister face on the screen was taunting me, feeding off my fear. Hours passed and the ordeal continued. I huddled in the corner, hands over my ears, tears streaming down my face. I had never felt so helpless and alone. Suddenly, the front door flew open. My parents, worried when they couldn't reach me, had returned early. As soon as they entered the house, the television went silent, and the horrifying face vanished. The nightmare was over. My parents tried to convince me that it was just some prank or vivid nightmare, but deep down, I knew what I had experienced was real. The house that had once been my sanctuary was now tainted, a constant reminder of the terror I had faced.